Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Lion's Den. This is the 100th episode of the Weekly Roar. That's right. Today we're celebrating the 100th episode of the Weekly Roar. For 100 weeks straight, I've entered the Lion's Den and let out my roar on leadership and personal growth. In honor of this milestone, I've asked some friends of mine to come join me so we could hold a discussion on consistency. It only makes sense since we're talking about my 100th episode, but there are a lot of benefits to being consistent, and every one of my panel members today can tell you firsthand what they are. So what do you say we get started with intros? And I'm going to start off today by asking Melahni to give us a quick introduction. Melahni, welcome to the Weekly Roar's 100th episode.
Roar! I am so excited to be here. What an honor, Greg, just to be with you and the panel. So I am Melahni, and I am the CEO of Make Connections for Life, because I believe in establishing the name Make Connections for Life. That is what we do consistently in our entire lives. We have a history, we have a story. And so through my company, I have written a book of mentoring moments. I have started a podcast, which is over 100 and everyday leaders, and celebrating people that do everyday things in their lives. And so that's the consistency. And I'm so happy to be here to celebrate with you and all of these other panel members.
Where are you coming live from today, Melahni?
I am coming from Indianapolis, Indiana.
That's right. Awesome. Thanks so much, Melahni. I'm excited to have you here today. And next, we're going to have Rene, another awesome person. Rene, it's so great to see you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Hey, everybody, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Greg, for inviting me to be part of this phenomenal panel. And yes, the accent is Australian. I'm coming all the way from Aussie. It is late night here, and I was just so excited to be a part of this. But I am a recovery coach for female adult survivors of child abuse, sexual assault, and domestic violence. And that has come and has been forged out of my own experience, being a survivor myself. And I've been sharing my story now for about 15 years. And then I opened the doors to ReneMichele.com 2 years ago, around the same time that I started writing my memoir, which was published last year as well, which I'm very excited about. And since then, I have coached women all around the world. And the book has now reached 4 out of 7 continents as well. So exciting times. And particularly with everything that's going on right now, with all the change, really instrumental, very, very important.
Amazing. It's so exciting to have you with us, Rene. Thank you for being here. I know it's late there, so thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
David, my friend, how about you?
Hey, Greg, it's great to be with you today. My name is David McGlennen. I'm the president of Impact Leadership Consulting, and I am a high-performance culture coach. So I work with companies and individuals on leadership teams to create high performance within organizations. And I'm coming to you from the sunny city of Pittsburgh today. We do occasionally have sun, so it's great to be with you here, Greg. So excited to be among this panel. It's really great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you, David, and thank you for jumping on with us today as well. It's exciting.
Totally my pleasure. Totally my pleasure.
Awesome. Paul, I am so happy to see you, man. I know you're going to add tons of value on this topic, so why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
No pressure there, Greg. Thanks. My name is Paul Silva, Paul Silva Coaching. I work primarily with new coaches to help them conquer the overwhelm of starting up their own business, niche, messaging, and also just their vibrational energy. So that's something I talk a lot about, and attraction. I also work with people in addiction recovery, which is part of my story. And I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So I don't have an accent, although people tell me I have an accent. I don't say a boot and all that nonsense, but born and raised here. I have 2 podcasts. I have 2 blogs. I've written a book, primarily around recovery, but also into some other areas. And I was a former chef for about 27 years. So that's been a big part of my life as well. But I'm just really glad to be here and with all you cats, and looking forward to it.
Oh, awesome. Paul, man, we are so lucky to have you here with us. You are going to add tons of value here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And good morning, Eric G. Reid. Welcome. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, Greg, and happy 100th. I remember when you were just a little cub, and now look at you. You've grown and grown, and you've influenced so many people and added so much value to the community you serve. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm Eric Reid. I'm the founder of Success Life U. What is that? You know, it grew out of the experience of chasing success, wanting to be successful, not understanding what successful looked like for me, because I was chasing everybody else's label, my mom, my dad's, my bosses, my kids, and I ended up exhausted and defeated. And so then I went back and I said, what would it look like if I was the only person left on the planet? And that's where Success Life U really came out of what would it look like for me? And so now I teach the 12 principles of success through both Success Life U and the morning podcasts.
From a consistency perspective, you were the first person that came into mind because you do your show every morning, Monday through Friday, and you've been doing it for years. So 100 is just a drop in the bucket for you. But anyway, it's great to have you, Eric, joining us to talk about consistency today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And of course, now I intentionally placed my friend Dennis last because, well, we all know that when Dennis speaks, steel toes are required. Dennis, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself as well?
Greg, congratulations on number 100. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That is a big deal. And my goodness, my name is Dennis LaRue. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. David, it's sunny here quite a bit. And my company, I'm the president and founder of LDR. Now, I'm retired Air Force. And so we don't always spell our words. We use a lot of acronyms. And so LDR for me first means leader. And then it also means leaders develop relationships, because the number one relationship leaders need to develop is with themselves first. Can't give what you don't have. And so what I focus on is executive coaching. I create a safe space for executives to share what they need to share that they can't share because of situations like we're in right now with the virus.
Yeah, Dennis, you've been phenomenal. And, you know, we always tune into LaRue on the streets. And I was kidding with Dennis the other day. I was, you know, with COVID-19 coming around, I was like, he can go from LaRue on the streets to LaRue off the streets. But yeah, now you guys can see why I've asked this panel to join me. They're pretty awesome, right? And of course, I'm Greg Storch. I'm the founder of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching business where I create winning work cultures, one leader at a time. I'm a certified professional leadership coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. And I'm currently living in northern Italy, just right outside of Venice. All right, everyone, what do you say that we get this discussion started? So my idea behind this panel was to assemble some thought leaders to talk into consistency so that our listeners could listen into our experiences and maybe pick something up to learn and help them grow a little more. Melahni's going to think I'm picking on her, but Melahni, I'm going to start with you, and let's start this discussion talking about what does consistency mean to you?
I love this question. Chapter 5 in my favorite book, first of all, The 15 Laws of Growth, is a book that was identified to me in the John Maxwell team. And then I started the mastermind about how to be consistent. And one of our other panel members, Reid, jumped in and said, I'm going to help you. And so what I learned is bringing others in to your tribe to learn about how to be consistent, right? You want to learn something and you don't know how to do it. And so it's not a straight line, it's not linear. There's a lot of things that you have to think about, but what is your end goal, right? What's the goal and why you want to be consistent? And so you have to frame up your life to put all of those pieces into place so that you can be accountable. You know, we talk about kids that don't have structure versus they want structure. And when you decide that you are all in and you have skin in the game, you do everything in your life to make sure that that happens so that you can show up and you can add value to your life. So that's what I believe it's all about.
I love that. That's awesome, Melahni. I took a note here. You know, one thing I keyed in on what you said was it's not linear. And that's where the challenge with consistency really comes in, right? Is because it's not linear, we tend to give up. We tend not to be consistent. Consistency is hard. The word itself is common. People use it all the time, but it's something really hard to do. So Melahni, thanks for talking a little bit about what consistency means to you. I'm going to go over to Rene. Rene, share a little bit more about what consistency means to you.
Yeah, look, for me, consistency is very much, personally for me, those things that you do in secret, in private, the unglorious moments that nobody else knows about. You know, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the early mornings, the non-glory moments. And in my life, definitely there has been decades of that. But in particular, when we're talking about when I started in business, I had a heart for what I wanted to do. I knew I had a message and I knew that it had the power to help people and change lives. But that was really all. So I knew my why, which is massive, and I'm sure we will talk more about that later. But I had the why, but I didn't have the systems. And I had to learn from scratch, from knowing nothing. And what I focused on, very much like Melahni said, was connections. So I spent the majority of my time really learning and gleaning from people, very much like I did in my recovery and healing journey. And I looked at people very much like all of you, and I started to model and see the things that I admired, and I became consistent in learning, growing, developing, and absorbing knowledge. And that is something that throughout my whole life has done me very well. So I followed that model and here I am. So I'm happy about that. So those unglorious moments are a big one for me.
I love that you said that you were watching people and getting that behavior modeled for you. And there's a key reason why we need to be consistent, even as leaders, because people are watching us for modeled behavior. So that was a good point. So that was beautiful, Rene. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And now I want to hear from Eric. Eric, what does consistency mean to you?
I think when I began, it was like, just show up and do it. Just keep going. But then it became about integrity. And it was like, I said to self and to others that I was going to do this. And how we do the little things is how we do the big things. And so each morning when I finish, I always say, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. I made that commitment to myself and to my community. And if I don't show up, I've broken that trust. And so consistency is almost that foundation, that pouring of the first slab for trust. And so consistency and trust run very parallel for me.
Man, gosh. Okay, you guys, if you weren't taking notes on these first three people, you need to get out a pen and paper because we're dropping bombs left and right here. So that was awesome, Eric. Thank you. You and I have a similar definition, and I'm going to share mine when everybody else is done, but I agree with you. You know, I love the integrity piece. Absolutely. Right on. Hey, Dennis, what about you? What's consistency mean to you?
Oh my, there's some great definitions already. Um, Consistency to me means this: it's doing the common things daily to achieve the uncommon in
Oh,
the future.
write that down.
In other words, you start as a finger painter and you work from finger painter to learn the fundamentals and the basics so you can become an artist and a Picasso.
I love that. The truth bombs being dropped are ridiculous. All right, let's bring in Paul. Paul, talk to us about consistency.
Yeah, Eric actually used a lot of the words I was going to use. To me, consistency is integrity, trust, and commitment, kind of rolled into one. And it's essentially giving myself a command and following it, and showing up energetically in a way that's in line with what I believe, in line with my goals. It's like praxis. It's action and belief kind of integrated and manifested in, like a lot of people saying here, like the little things, the things that that happen out of the spotlight, out of the limelight. And it's the things that I know that regardless if I don't feel like doing it, regardless if there's other things pulling my attention, if it doesn't quite capture my imagination that day, but I still do it because I know that there is a goal, and consistency it's a foundation for getting there. It's and then the other part that comes with is persistence. Now persistence is more about overcoming obstacles and pushing through in spite of what things may block you. But consistency is right behind there, and it's something that for me, whether it's my getting up at 4 a.m. every day, whether it's posting in social media every day, whether it's doing my morning routine for just my spiritual growth, that adds up. And when I don't do one of those things, it feels weird. And so that's what consistency means for me.
Great, Paul. What I was hearing you say is your ability to tie your actions to what you value is how you're able to stay consistent, because you've tied that to something that's important to you. And when you don't do that, it's hard to be consistent at what you're doing. When you don't have the buy-in or tied to your values or your big picture, it can be more of a challenge for us. And maybe that's why some people have such a hard time keeping with their New Year's resolutions and these goals. And Eric Reid can talk to us ad nauseum about that. He actually has a course that's going on that will talk to you about not only setting goals, but how you actually achieve those goals. So he's phenomenal. Paul, thank you so much. I'm going to wrap this question up with David and ask David what he thinks about consistency. How do you look at it?
Yeah, this is great. Everybody has had. I've been just jotting down different words that I've heard, and I want to start with what Melahni said, because she talked about deciding, and she said decide to be all in. And to me, I really resonate with that, because it's about habits. It's about creating habits and a way of being. And it goes then right into what Rene was saying. It's like doing the things that are not glorious. It's just getting up and having a morning routine, and whatever it is that you're wanting to do consistently, deciding to do it. And then what Eric said about having integrity, it's when you decide, it's like nobody's going to know. If I don't get up at 5 a.m, who's going to know? My wife will know, but I'll know. And so it's really having that integrity, creating the habits to be able to do the things that you say you want to do, and then actually following through. So to me, it's all about habits and creating that consistent behavior.
Thank you that was an awesome wrap up too. So that was great. Okay. So I love this. And for me, consistency, in my mind, it does a couple of things for us, right? First, when it comes to leadership, it's what helps us to build trust with other people. They want to know where you're coming from. And if they can, see that consistency, they're going to know what they're going to get. And so that helps them to build trust with you. And the second thing in my mind is that and this kind of ties into what Eric was saying, but it makes us reliable people. People know they can rely on us when we're consistent, and that's, you know, the integrity piece as well. So I love that. Thank you guys. That was awesome. So I hope we've shaken it out a little bit. We're getting the flow going. You guys did wonderful. I want to give you time to think a little bit while I tell a story about Eric G. Reid and my business coach, Jeffrey St. Laurent. So when I hired my business coach, when I first started Lion Enterprise, I hired a coach, right? Coaches get coaches. So Jeff St. Laurent was my coach. He's phenomenal. And we talked about building my audience and then, you know, getting out and staying out in front of the audience by being consistent. And consistency was the theme in all of our talks. And you know, it wasn't not only in my messaging being consistent, but, you know, being consistent with my weekly emails and the videos I was doing each week. And one of the things he always reminded me about was that I shouldn't be paying attention to who was watching, because that wasn't the point. The point was to be consistent. So people would get to know that, you know, every Wednesday at 11 a.m., the weekly roar is going down, right? Every morning at 8 a.m., Eric's coming on in Success Life Live. That's the consistency piece that he was coaching me around. So being reliable, consistent to my followers and my friends and family is really my main driver for being consistent. But, you know, ultimately the consistency is what's driving me to my ultimate goal of where I want to be. And it is those daily things. So when I started these things, I ran into our friend, none other than Eric G. Reid. And I remember having a conversation with him when I was first getting started, because I was watching him already. And I was like, yeah, my goal is to reach 100 episodes. And, you know, of course, in typical Eric fashion, he challenged me and he said, why only 100? And I was like, dang, that's right. Like, why would I have such a narrow focus? So I turned that initial thought of getting to 100 into, when I get to 100, I can stand up and look over the horizon and see the next 100 and then the next 100 after that. So, you know, so here I am, passing go, collecting 200 as I make my way around the track and keep going. So I understood the importance, and Eric helped me to understand that once you start on the journey, it's a lifelong commitment. So I guess I want to give Eric a shout out and just say, thank you, Eric, for doing that. I appreciate it. A lot of us, I don't know if all of us have read this book, but many of us have. In the book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Leadership, written by John C. Maxwell, he has a chapter on the law of consistency. And in it, he wrote these words, and I want to quote them. And he said, small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. I'm going to read it one more time because this next question is going to be about what that says. So he said, small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. So I want to know your thoughts about that perspective. Who wants to lead the discussion? Raise your hand.
Yeah, you know, I think that in our world that we live in today, everybody wants things fast. You know, we have microwaves, we have, you know, fast food, we have drive-throughs, we're trying to get things on the run. And there is really something to be said about something developing over time. And that's why I think that habits are such a powerful tool for leaders and a powerful tool for really everyone. But to me, that quote talks about time. And it's just being able to put the work in, just like you, putting the work in week after week after week. And that's what matters. It's showing up. And when you show up, you create the habit. Doesn't matter who's watching. Kind of to Renee's point earlier, it's like those inglorious moments. It really doesn't matter. But as you do those things over and over and over again, and it does take time. I mean, there's a story that I tell an awful lot about a guy trip that I went on, and we climbed a mountain, and it took a heck of a long time to get to the top. When we summited, it was like 5 hours after we started, and it was not fun. But when we got to the top, man, it was great. And to your point, you could see the next mountain. You could see that second mountain. You think to yourself, oh wow, I want to get there, but it's going to take some time to get there. So this quote is really, I think, all about time and being able to put the time in and not worrying about instant success.
I love that. Thank you. And I love that story too. I've heard you talk about that story before, and I love it. It's a great example. I mean, literally climbing the mountain. How perfect can it be? Does somebody want to go next? Okay, Eric, come on. Let's do this. Let's talk about this quote that I just read. If you need me to read it again too, let me know.
No, I helped John write it, so I'm good. When I hear that quote, or when I think of that reference, I think of like Dave's kids are very musical. When you first start out, you're focused down on your fingers and walking through the scale. And then as you go a little longer and you consistently work on that, then you start to look up at the music and then down at your fingers. It's not until you've done it long enough you start to actually hear the music. And then you begin to play with the music, and then you begin to play with the timing, and then you begin to add in other pieces. So often when we start out with consistency, we want to jump to creating an entire symphony. And it's not until we do that finger movement naturally that, for me, each and every morning, some people are like, how do you come up with so much content? In the beginning, I was like focused on every single finger placement. Mm-hmm. Now, it's almost like content comes flowing to me because I don't have to focus on the basics. I don't have to focus on the fundamentals. I focus on this larger song that I'm trying to create. And so consistency, you gotta understand there's a long, as Rene said, there's a long period of just trying to line up the fingers on the right key at the right time.
Eric, I love that. And, you know, I know you worked hard with John to write that book. You know, we keep throwing Renee's name out there, so I'm going to shotgun this one and just ask Rene to pop on here real quick, and then we'll go. You know, if you feel froggy and want to jump after Rene, just come off mute and jump in. So we're talking about this quote: small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. Rene, what are you feeling about that?
Yeah, those types of quotes really hit me deep because, like I said, my journey took me such a long time. And if someone had said to me back when I first went, right, now is the time for change, I have to do something. If someone said, yeah, that's awesome, it's going to take you about 16 years, I probably would have curled up in a ball and started rocking back and forth. But the clincher for me was the pain of staying the same far outweighed the pain of whatever it was going to take to change.
I'm sorry. I gotta jump in. Everybody write that down. Wow. Boom. Okay, Rene.
Boom, I'm done. Woo-hoo. So those little things over time were so monumental to me. So even though we say the little things, to me, it meant everything. So it was those little things of choosing my environment, choosing who I listened to, choosing where I spent my time. Now, again, they sound like small things, but to me, it was literally life or death. It was literally things will stay the same, which you will die, or they will forever change. So it sounds little sometimes, but it was a no-brainer for me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Just the context of this. I mean, every one of you have these stories where consistency has played a role. And I mean, it can even be a story that's as dire as yours, where it is literally a matter of life and death. So your perspective is amazing, and very thankful that you're able to be here with us to share it. So thank you. Melahni, you came off mute. Good girl.
So when I think about this question, I think about me in corporate America and thinking how I showed up every single day to add value to someone. And I was always expecting someone to notice. I was always expecting that feedback of, are you going to recognize me? Am I going to be, evaluated or lifted up, or the opportunities that I saw for myself? But I began to realize as I started studying personal growth consistently, that it was about my belief in myself. And so when that started to change and I started to do consistent activities in my own personal growth, things became very clear that it was my responsibility to start changing my life. It wasn't anyone else's responsibility. And so that was the biggest aha, that be consistent, decide again what you want out of your life, and show up to add value to yourself first. And then things, just like we've all said, things start to come to you. The universe starts to respond to the things that you see for yourself. And it becomes very clear.
I'm having these thoughts here, man, and something just came to me, and I'm like, you know what? Consistency is a momentum builder. Consistency is a momentum builder. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm thinking back to episode 1 of the Weekly Roar, and it was ridiculous. It was a Facebook Live. It probably lasted 10 minutes. I had no idea what I was doing. I went live because somebody told me I needed to do lives, and I just started talking about something in leadership and, trying to encourage people. And when I look back, those are almost horrific learning points to me. But, you look at a Weekly Roar today, and it's starting, it's a matured process. And so, you gain this momentum every day that you do one more thing and one more thing and you start to build that momentum, and you start to get better. You get better. So I love it. Thank you, Melahni and Dennis LaRue.
Man, these are some great definitions, aren't they? This is a great topic. When I think about this topic, when it comes to consistency, Greg, immediately I thought about the marathon. I run because of being out LaRue on the street.
Yes.
I remember I was a lifelong runner, but I was afraid of the marathon.
Yep.
And when I finally ran a marathon, I remember going through the training process, and consistency first started with just lacing up the shoes and getting out the door.
There you go.
You got to get that down first, and then you put together the training plan, and then you start building those process and systems, a training partner. But it all starts, in order to be consistent, the definition talks about achievements. You got to know what the achievement is, and in the marathon, it's the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get to the finish line, you got to leave the starting line, and you got to have steps each way, and you're going to hit a wall, and you're going to face obstacles. But consistency through the training plan, consistency in the process, and belief that you're going to reach that finish line, eventually you get to that finish line.
Yeah.
And so when I think of this, the small discipline is get out of bed.
Yeah.
Put on the shoes, get out the door, put in a training plan.
Love it.
Follow the plan. Make adjustments to the plan and move forward with that plan. And then you start building that momentum. You go from, man, that first run, I did 2 miles, I'm sore, my calves are screaming, I need an ice bath, to a 20-mile training run. You're like, wow, I feel amazing.
Yeah. That
first day you ran, you said, there is no way I'm going to do a marathon. When you do that 20-mile run, you're like, I'm thinking about doing a 50K. I know I'm going to get to the finish line. It's that next mountain that you were talking about. That's what I think of when we're talking about this definition.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking that's another thing that we have in common with Paul. Paul's an avid runner as well. He loves getting out on the street, and for the same reasons we do. It brings clarity and space together with our thoughts. But Dennis, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I do mean to put you on the spot, because you said something that struck me, and I wanna ask if you would kind of just real quick touch a little bit more on the belief part, because you said belief, and that word, I don't want it to go understated, because I think there's a major role of belief in consistency. So can you just, why did that word come up for you when we were talking about consistency, and how does it play a role in your consistency?
Well, if I don't believe I can cross the finish line, I'm not going to get out of the door. I'm going to change completely. I'm going to find something else. And, you know, being in military, I meet people all the time that say, put one foot in front of the other, put one foot in front of the other, put one foot in front of the other. Well, if you don't know what the mission is, if you don't know what the objective is, eventually you're one foot in front of the other without belief, without an objective, you're just going to go around in circles. And so for me, belief for me to cross the finish line, belief is the fuel. Belief is the passion. Belief is the energy. Belief is when my gas tank is on empty, belief all of a sudden gives me another half tank of gas. It just magically appears.
This is gold, man. This is gold. If consistency is the journey, man, you're filling up your gas tank to get on the journey with a tank full of belief.
That's right. You're running on fumes, but those fumes are enough.
Yeah.
If you have belief.
Ah, good, man. Dennis, thank you for indulging me in that little sidetrack. That was brilliant. Thank you. And Paul, let's hear from you. What do you think about that quote I gave?
I was going to use the running analogy. That's shot. So thanks, Dennis.
Actually, use it anyway. Talk to us about that.
Oh, you know, well, actually, I was thinking of something else too, because there was another point I was going to make anyway, and that's, you know, coming off the idea of belief, and that's faith as well. So having a goal and having the faith that you will reach it. It sort of reminds me of, you know, when you know, the ship charts its course and for port, and you know, 95% of the time you won't see the port until the very end. You won't see till the very end. And so as it's going through its journey, there's you know, because you can't see it, it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And it's just being able to consistently take the actions, you know, the direction, the turns, the adjustments, whatever it is you need to do, knowing that you're with the faith, believing and knowing that you are going to hit ports, that you're going to hit your objective, your goal. And so that's why it's always important for me to tie goal to this, and also getting emotionally involved with it and just really feeling it. And, you know, so that's why for myself, and I tell clients, when you have your goal, write it out, feel it. How are you emotionally attached to it? Or else it's just, I might as well just have a shopping list. Like, it doesn't matter. Right. Yeah. And so if I can get really engaged in it energetically, spiritually, however, emotionally, then that helps on the days that I don't feel like, you know, I don't feel like lacing up. I don't feel like doing that, but I know that I'll do the next right indicated action because I have the faith and knowledge that I will hit where I need to go. And so I think consistency that's where that is built in, because I need to be on that path, taking the actions as needed to hit the mark.
And I'm glad you switched your story, because obviously, being a retired sailor, I can understand your analogy. And ironically, my wife was a navigator in the Navy, so she used to plot the course for the ship. So it really hit home. I think that was a great analogy. You're exactly right. I mean, she was plotting points along this huge chart. And sometimes it was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There was no destination on the chart. It was just the depth of the water, and she was plotting, you know, around things that were getting in the way and making sure the ship was safe. But eventually she pulled out the chart that had the destination on it, but she had to consistently keep plotting points to get us to where we were going. So I loved it. Thank you. You know, for me, sometimes I think it's hard for others to keep their focus solely on the final outcome. It may be too big for them to, they get overwhelmed. It can be overwhelming and even distracting for people. So sometimes I think like that distraction makes it hard for people to take those first tiny steps to get that momentum going. And that's why I like this quote so much. You know, focusing on consistently taking action each day is what helps us to realize bigger achievements over time. So, you know, another thing is we have to be patient, and we also need to understand that, you know, the minute you stop doing something, success is just waiting for you right around the corner. So you just can't stop. You don't know when it's going to pop up. The minute you stop, it was right there on the other side. So before we move on, does anybody have anything else they want to add to that? You all were brilliant, so I can't imagine we're going to add. Let's, you guys are so awesome. Eric, I know you speak a lot about things like this on your success life. So what do you think contributes to, this is the next question. What do you think contributes to some people's inability to stay consistent?
Whew. I could say that's an easy one, but it's probably the most challenging thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not rooted in them. Often it's rooted in a 21-day challenge, an 11-day challenge, a this and a that challenge where they're trying to prove externally that they can be consistent. Now, sometimes that'll get us started, but it doesn't keep us going. Until we can really root in our purpose and our understanding and our beliefs, why we need this. And in some cases, it's a matter of just survival. And in other cases, it's a matter of growing into our bigger self. And so I know for me, and I mean, there are mornings that I'm like, oh, I am not coming. I am not doing the live. I'm not showing up. I'm not in it. The makeup crew is running late. Nothing is going to work. And then I remember back to, okay, so why did you say you were going to do this? Did you say it because you needed 10,000 followers or X number of, no, you said because your purpose is to grow and to guide others to growth. Mm-hmm. So is that changed just because of some external event? No. Okay. So shut up, get moving, get it done. It's that knowing and not being knocked out of the knowing that really holds you past. Now, like I said, the challenges, yeah, they get you started, but in the long haul, it's exhausting playing other people's tennis game.
That was brilliant. It's exhausting playing somebody else's tennis game. I love it. Hey, thanks, Eric, for doing a mini Success Life live with us. I mean, I see you as really, you know, the expert here when we talk about things like this, because I mean, you do have a course pretty much wrapped around this whole concept. So, and consistency plays a big part in people's ability to be successful in what you're doing. So I appreciate you letting me put you on the spot. And I want to hear from some other people. What are your thoughts about this? If you have any, you know, what do you suspect might be challenges for people getting to be consistent? I mean, we see it all the time, right? Like they're New Year's resolutions, really. You know, it's they start out with good intentions, but we all know, you know, that saying. So Melahni, you came off mute, and so did David. Let's let Melahni go first, and then David, when Melanie's done, why don't you just roll right into it, okay?
So I love this topic because I think we all say it has to be a big goal to be consistent. Like it can't be something small. And so my own personal experience was going through a job transition. And I didn't have anything consistent in my life. I felt like everything was out of control. So what I did, like Eric referenced, I took a challenge for 31 days to get up every morning and to start a Bible study. And that has turned into a lot of clarity for what the next steps were. Right? I didn't know how to start that. I didn't know what it was going to look like. But now it's been over 6 months that we've been doing this every single day. And so, you know, it's how somebody said this earlier, but it's how we do one thing is how we do everything. And so when you start to realize that you can practice consistency, you can do that in any part of your life, right? It doesn't have to say, I'm going to go climb a mountain. I'm going to go run a marathon. I'm going to load the dishes in the dishwasher every day, right?
Yeah.
It can start like that. So the fear and I think the ability for somebody to see that it's just a little thing in your life that you can have control over. And that makes you feel even like making your bed, right? Getting up and doing that one thing, it will help you gain that clarity in your life to be able to do bigger things.
I'm glad you said the F word, the dirty little F word, and that's fear. Because I think we all understand how paralyzing that word is for people, and fear of, in general, fear of the unknown paralyzes us and doesn't allow us to move forward. And if you can't move forward, you'll never be consistent with anything. So I love that you mentioned the dirty little F word here, because I think that's a big player in this thing, why people can't seem to find consistency in their life. And David, let's roll over to you. What do you think?
Yeah, so one of the things that was rolling around in my head really came from a couple of things that a couple of the panelists said today. One was that Eric said is connecting to your why. Like, why am I doing this? You know, you talked about, Greg, New Year's resolutions, and why do those fail all the time? Well, so many times, and I think Paul said this too, emotionally, we're not connected to them. But when we connect to our why is this important to us? And if we make that connection, and then if we create the belief that it can happen, you know, something that Dennis said is we have to believe that it's going to happen. It's done. And when we do that, but sometimes that gets hard. And you know, just like climbing the mountain, there's parts of the, you know, when altitude takes over and when climbing is difficult, and we need somebody else. We need a partner to come alongside of us. And I loved what Dennis said, because sometimes you need a training partners, and sometimes you need an accountability partner, somebody to be able to just call you or say, hey, I'm going to work out at 4:37. So if you're not there, I'm coming and I'm going to drag your butt out of bed. But that partner can sometimes help you in bolstering your own belief. And you know, there's a passage in scripture. I'm a man of faith, and one of the things that I go to a lot is there's a passage that says, you know, God, I believe, but help me in my unbelief. You know, sometimes we doubt, and sometimes, look, I know it's out there and I've got this faith, but man, I just need a little help, you know, kind of help me here. And so I think that's the thing that gets in the way a lot of times, is that when the road gets rough and when it gets difficult, when the seas get rough, like Paul was talking about, you know, we may not see the end. We just need somebody to come alongside us and help us. And so really, I think that that's one of the biggest things that gets in people's way of being consistent.
Yeah. You know, a thought came to my mind while you were talking, David, that more now than ever, we're living this example, because everybody's in a situation where they're having to start with something new and get consistent at it.
That's right.
With, you know, being sequestered in their homes. So, and what I love what you said is sometimes we just need a little help from our friends. And right now, more than ever, that's true. Rene, talk to us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I like this question because this comes up a lot for me with my female clients, particularly around emotions. And the fact that so many of us allow ourselves to be led and dictated by our emotions, waiting to feel like we want to do something, waiting for inspiration to hit before we write that next chapter of the book, or waiting to feel like we want to train. and I don't feel like it today, and oh no, it's not the right day to do that project, and I'll wait till it comes up next week. And learning how to master our emotions is just such a blessing, and it is such a powerful activity. The more you become aware of how you feel and monitor those patterns of behavior, what triggers demotivation, what triggers those thoughts or feelings that say, no, I don't want to do that today. Is there a pattern to that? So I have a lot of my clients journal so they can start seeing that pattern, because knowledge is power. So once they start seeing, oh, okay, it's when this happens that all of a sudden I don't want to do that anymore and I retreat and become a recluse. That's when we become a real master of learning how to ignore that. And like we said, doing those little things over time, whether we want to or not, whether it feels good or not. I can't say that I understand your running analogy, because the only time I'll run is if someone's chasing me. So good for you. But definitely with lifting in the gym, there are days that I just don't want to do that. But I start getting restless if I don't. And once we do have those daily habits in our life, that's when we start going, oh, you know, just go and do it, because you're never going to like yourself if you don't. But emotions are a big one. Do it regardless of how you feel.
I love it. And thanks for the little tidbit of advice. That was one of my things that I was going to lead into here. But I want to do a round robin again with the panel with this question. I'd like you to share with the people that are watching today one example, either personally or professionally or both, whatever you want, how consistency has actually played a role in your own life. You know what? I'll go first real quick. And I mean, this is a perfect example, the consistency of the weekly roar. And the role it's played is it's helped me grow and get better. And so just being committed to the consistency has resulted in growth. And I didn't even realize it was happening. But what's awesome is I can see a weekly roar today. And when I go back 2 years ago and look at my first one, I can see the growth. You know, we don't see it every day, right? We can't tell. It's like looking at ourselves in the mirror. We don't really see the changes. That's how it's played a role in my life. You know, the weekly roar has been a great example of being consistent. And, you know, there's probably many others. So anybody who's ready, and then I'll just start calling on people after that. Melahni, and then Rene. Follow Melahni right after that.
So I think what happened for me is being consistent personally and professionally, and personal growth. I started to realize what didn't fit.
Ooh.
So it was the consistent things that I needed to take out of my life. That was my biggest aha. Like, I knew I wanted to show up and add value, but there were things that I was consistently doing that I needed to remove. And so part of those were accepting people that I didn't believe in or didn't believe in me, and trying to prove myself all the time. So I removed all of that, and it allowed the growth of what I was doing consistently that added value. That's the momentum that we talk about, right? And that's where it all just continued to bring people into my life that needed to be there at that right time. It's my biggest lesson.
I love it. That's an awesome lesson to learn. Rene, what about you?
Yeah, I had a very strong lesson on this one, Greg, when I worked internationally in a male-dominated environment, and it was quite a volatile, hostile environment. And I was having to go into particular compounds every day with armed security guards, and having to work face-to-face in a very, I guess, fluid environment is probably the best way to call it. And a lot of the staff there, female staff, would get so nervous about sticking to their boundaries and sticking to the rules in case they offended somebody, that they would sometimes blur the boundaries a little bit just to keep certain people on side, because they were scared of saying no. So I never did that. And while I was fearful and felt out of my depth, there was a comfort in always sticking to the rules and knowing that I was towing the line. Now, we had a whistleblower type arrangement set up, and out of the blue one day, I was dragged into the manager's office and accused of doing something that I hadn't done. And it didn't go any further. Usually there's a tier that it goes through all the way to Canberra, to our politicians it can go to. Wow. Now it was stopped at the first state of level purely based on my reputation. Now I didn't know a lot of the people that were approached when they said, look, Rene's been accused of this, what do you think? And I was told that they said, look, personally, I don't know her. However, I know her reputation. I know her consistency. I know she doesn't break rules for anybody. And it absolutely saved my skin in that situation. And it was just a very point that could have gone very bad for me. Not only could I have lost my job, but also lost my reputation. So, you know, sticking to my guns and just doing what I knew to do really did give me a reputation that I now know. Again, doing those little things that nobody sees really did save me. And even now, those managers still laugh about that and say, we haven't even met you yet, but we knew you by your reputation.
I love that example. Thanks for sharing that story with us because, you know, there were two facets to it. One, where your consistency actually ensured your safety. And two, you bring up a really great point that consistency also helps us build our reputations. So good on you. Love it. Eric, I saw you come off mute. So what do you got?
So one of the things I noticed is when I chose one area to be consistent, like Melahni said, other areas got impacted almost accidentally, in the sense that because I had to be ready at 8 a.m., that means certain things had to be done before 8 a.m. and certain things couldn't be done at 8 a.m. And so I had to plan. And then all of a sudden my kids started going, okay, well, he's busy for the next 20 minutes doing that thing that he does that we have no idea what he does, but he does it. They started realizing that they had to follow certain patterns. And so what I really encourage people is, like, you don't need to be consistent with your health and your finance and your fitness and your all of those areas. Pick the smallest element and get really consistent on that. And everything around it needs to shift. It's kind of like playing chess. Each move creates a whole new game.
David, I see you're off mute as well.
Yeah, just something that Eric said right now just spurred a thought. And I think I love what he said, because it's just picking the one thing that you can start with. It doesn't have to be big. And for me, it's like my morning routine, my morning ritual. And when I start my day doing my ritual, man, that sets my day up like nothing else, because it's the one thing that creates the next thing and the domino effect. And so I think it's sometimes, and I don't remember who said it before, but it doesn't have to be the big thing. It doesn't have to be running the marathon or doing the, whatever. It's just like doing my morning routine. It's taking 15 minutes, it's taking 20 minutes, whatever that time is. But when you do something that's going to set the rest of your day up, then you can kind of look back on it and say, look, I did that. And then when I know I can do it again, and I know I can do it again. And so it really almost fosters your own belief and your own self-belief, knowing that when you do it once, you can do it again, and it doesn't have to be big. So that's the kind of the thought that came to my mind.
Now next time when I'm doing this for my 200th episode, I'm going to quote David, because I wrote this down. It's the one thing that creates the next thing. That's a great quote. Hey, Paul, what about you?
What comes up for me is when I got into recovery to get sober. And so I had to change everything that I did, everything. And so when I started on that journey, it was being consistent with all the little things. Like, it had to be, because that did make a big difference in the end, clearly. And so even when I was, in treatment, it was very regimented. It was almost military, like up at a certain time, make the bed, inspections, all that kind of stuff. And, at first kind of moaning and groaning about it. But what I found is, we always think thoughts, feelings, actions, results. But there's a lot of times that actions can actually influence thought and belief. And so by taking these actions, even though I didn't feel like doing them, it actually started to change my thinking about myself. So, a lot of low self-esteem was an issue. And so that started, like, you had to shave every day. You had to dress. You had to have a collared shirt. You had to have pants with a belt, everything. You had to be a certain way. I started to feel better about myself, because when you're in the throes of addiction or things like personal hygiene go out the window, all that kind of stuff. So by being consistent with that, that was able to start to generate different thoughts and beliefs. And so that expands, so that was something. And to this day, there are certain things that I do that keep me in a healthy realm, emotionally, spiritually, and all that. So that is how that showed up for me personally, because it can break cycles. Creating new habits, new routines gives us new results. And unless you have that consistency, you can't do this, once in a while thing. It doesn't work, right? And same with like people on social media, coach, or whoever it is, like if they're just putting their message out there, you can't do a Facebook post once every 2 weeks, or just kind of, an Instagram shot once in a while. Showing up consistently and letting people know. So it's also an energetic thing, right? But in the end, it does help to also change our thoughts and beliefs about ourselves, or a certain perspective that we used to hold, and now it changes, and that gives us different results.
And Paul, thanks for the transparency here. I love that you shared that story and that perspective, that it can actually create new habits and break cycles. That's the power of consistency. So, man, that's powerful. Thank you. Dennis, jump in here, my friend. Put on your steel toes.
Man, I'm jumping into the deep end of the pool here with steel toes. That usually means I'm going to drown.
Nah. I'll throw you a life ring, brother.
I love what Paul said. Paul reminded me of the importance of just those small steps. It reminds me of the rule of 5. The rule of 5, the 5 things you need to do every single day in order to chop that big tree down. It might be a goal. It might be just your life in general. And so when I really understood that rule and put together my rule of 5, it really just, what it showed me was, these are the things I've been doing my whole life that have helped me grow in my area. And so my rule of 5 is I write every day. So that could be a journal. It could be, an email. It could be, writing something for a story, content, or whatever. I read every single day. I inspire people every single day. I'm networking every day, relationships every day. And then I purposely look for growth. Now, the growth is somewhere in between all of those, and sometimes it's by itself separately. But I write those letters, W-R-I-N-G, ring, on top of my calendar or my journal every single day. So it keeps me focused on doing one of those things every single day. And I try to get them done early. So like writing and reading, those are the first things I do every single day.
Love it.
And in one sense, I am networking every single day because I spend time, like David, I'm a person of faith. I'm networking every single day in prayer, to getting in tune and getting in rhythm. Spending time with your family. Right now, everybody's networking at home because of this virus. Right. Eric's like, no. Everybody's looking for ways to network differently, like what we're doing now. So when I do those 5 things consistently, I've seen that when I've done those 5 things, it's really set me up for the successes that I've had in the past, and it's set me up for the successes of the future.
I love the way that you've taken the need for consistency in your life and turned it into a mini framework for yourself with the acronym RING. It's great. That's a great example of how you can put consistency to work for you. So thanks. Good. Awesome. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys for indulging me on this. Okay. There's a couple more things I want to talk about and we'll wrap it up. If you have advice for, say, somebody out there's listening and they want to know if you've got some advice or tips on how they could get better at being consistent. Now, I know Rene had mentioned journaling with her clients, so that would be a great tip. So if you have something you want to share that would help somebody get better at being consistent or embracing consistency in their own lives, what would you tell them?
Okay, I'll go.
I love you, Melanie.
I think it's all, for me, it was all about accountability. And so get an accountability partner, get 2 or more people to show up with you. And whatever that is, I don't care. Go check the mail together at the same time. But it's doing something with someone else so that you do show up for them and for yourself. And I think that's the biggest, it changes your belief that you actually can do something. And then again, with momentum, like we've all talked about, it will continue to enhance your confidence, and you will think about bigger things that you can then do and more people that you can pull into your circle.
Love that, Mel. David, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually just going to say the exact same thing, but I think it can't be underestimated, the power of other people around you. I mean, one of the things that helped me to be consistent with my workouts and with my health was a partner. I mean, for so many years, I had a partner that showed up every day, and he and I went to the gym together. We met at the gym, or we met at his house to go for a bike ride or what have you. But that other person, you know, at least one other person, you've got to do that, and then start small.
I love that one. Thanks, David. And Eric, I saw you come off mute too. What advice would you give to somebody who's trying to get more consistent?
So since Dave and I are often like the Cuomo brothers, I'm the younger one, by the way. I have to give him, you know, I have to one up him. And I would say, go public. You know, it's one thing to have an accountability partner, but you have to go public, whatever public looks like for you. Because in the beginning, that's going to make, I mean, we all fear being called out, good or bad. We all, like, that's the worst thing. So go public with a small group, with your team, with your organization. Your spouse is not public, by the way, because they are probably the one person that doesn't want you to succeed at consistency, because then that changes their world and they may not be ready. So you got to go outside the safe circle.
I love it. I love that one. And thanks for one-upping David.
It's really easy to do.
Oh man, it's getting brutal. Rene, help us out.
A big one for me has been mentoring, finding a mentor. So I had one throughout the stage where I was coming out of addiction, and again became a Christian, and really quite quickly and rapidly went from one world to another, not having any clue how to do that safely or sustainably. So a mentor for me was imperative, and because it had such great effects for me and reaped such great rewards, I've continued that throughout my entire life, both personally and professionally. So I will always have a business mentor and always have a personal mentor. And when I say personal, I've always had someone that is a parent, because being a solo parent, it's very important to me to have someone who raises their children in the same way, with the same values and like-mindedness that I do. And so usually for me, it's been a grandma that has raised children that are my age and are now, you know, mentoring other people. So that's always been very important to me. Accountability is awesome, but then mentoring for me has been a whole nother level on top of that again.
Yeah. Paul, what about you? What advice would you give to somebody about trying to embrace consistency?
I would look inward and check in and see and be very honest. Is this what you really want? Is this what you really want? Or is it something you think you should be doing? And, you know, because we don't get what we want, we get what we feel about what we want. And so if we feel unworthy, if we feel that we're doing this for someone else, if we feel that there's just too much around it, then we're not going to be consistent. And so it's, you know, looking back at, you know, recovery, lots of guys that were in my center there because they wanted to get their boss off their backs. They wanted to, just placate their spouses or partners, but they weren't doing it for themselves. And so it may have worked short term, but because it wasn't for them, there was no long lasting change. There was no consistency. So for me, it would be checking in with yourself. And if that requires a coach, a therapist, being very honest with some close friends, whatever it is, or even just journaling and figuring out, do I really want this? Or is it something that just sounds good? Or because so-and-so thinks it's a good idea?
You really got Eric's head nodding on that one. I know he says the same thing. So that was great advice. I wrote some notes because as you guys are talking about consistency, I'm like, hey, and I wanted to talk about Eric's going public because that's exactly what I did when I decided to set the goal of running the half marathon. I knew that if I made a post, I wasn't turning back because the person I am, once I've obligated myself, I'm a man of my word. So now I have to go run the damn half marathon because there is no other option because I've put it out there. And it was great because Eric jumped in and it wasn't enough to just say, hey, I'm going to do it. But he pushed me to say, listen, it's not a goal till you have the details, you've registered, you have a plan. And so I made sure that all of those things got put into place to make sure that I wasn't just saying, hey, I'm going to go run it and then never run the thing. So, Dennis, yes, bring it in, brother. Hit me. What are you going to tell us about advice for people that might want to get consistent in what they're doing?
They need to expect adversity. Expect adversity and embrace obstacles because it's telling you you're going in the right direction.
Oh,
I mean, Geico says it. It's so easy. If it's so easy, a caveman can do it. You're going in the wrong direction.
I love it. Yeah, great advice.
So
really good.
Expect those. And one other thing that came to my mind and goes with what Paul said about looking inward, it's guarding your self-talk. And Eric Reid, I know, is big on this too. And also address your fear. Name your fear. Get it out on paper. It's one thing to put your goal out there. Well, put your adversary out there too. Who is it?
Yeah. Love it.
And expect that adversary to show up because they're the one that wants to get you off course. So that's where you guard your self-talk, and that's where you expect that obstacle. And when you can name your adversary, you can plan for them.
Yeah, I love it. Those are great points, Dennis. Thanks for jumping in and adding those. Actually really big because as we're trying to move forward on a consistent basis, we're moving to our uncomfort zone, right? Out of the comfort zone. And that's when the fear monster, those, the limiting beliefs and everything else really start not whispering, screaming to retreat and go back to where you just came from because there's nothing for you there. It's all right here. And if you're staying in the comfort zone, it would be very difficult to get consistent at anything because you don't see what you're doing that for. It'll become a boring game it'll be Groundhog Day. Thanks for jumping in on that. Hey, final thoughts on consistency in general. Eric.
I know we're teaching about becoming consistency, getting into consistency, developing a consistent mindset. But as you pointed out, your wife was the navigator on the ship and she was constantly checking the course and making adjustments for upcoming obstacles. We can't be consistent for consistent sake. Sometimes we get in these habits that I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing and I hope it's going to work out. And if it works out, then yay. And if it doesn't, at least I get points for being consistent. That's just stupid. If you know you're going to run into an iceberg, if you know the course you're on isn't going to take you to where you need, if new data and information and resources come available, why wouldn't you utilize it to plot a better course? The idea isn't so much always in the actions, but in being consistent in moving towards a goal. And so don't, I get a back injury. I'm not going to keep going to the gym because I said I was going to go to the gym every day. That's going to cause me more damage than health.
Right.
I'm not going to show up on Facebook every day if my energy is out of alignment, like Paul teaches. If you're just showing up to show up so you can get the checkpoint, then what you're delivering doesn't come from a place of sincerity, a place of authenticity. So when you move through this thing called consistency, you've got to go back and like, okay, am I being consistent about the action or about the belief and the desire? Because there are certain personality types that just want to keep doing the same thing over and over again, hoping it will bring a result. If you're not monitoring the results that you're currently getting, then you need to get with somebody and say, okay, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. I went on a hot seat the other day in a coaching program, and I was like, here's what I've been doing. And I got blistered. I mean, blistered. And a part of it was, where is your feedback? Where's your data? Where's your analysis of what the results you're creating through consistency are? So I don't want to like completely take everybody out of consistency, but I want to remind you that as you go through it, you got to monitor the data, the input, the reference points.
Eric, I actually love that you brought this up, because as I'm thinking of consistency, that does not equate to doing the same thing over and over again, right? And of course, we could continue that definition of insanity and expecting different results. But what we should be doing, to your point, is doing pulse checks. You should be seeing growth in that consistency. If you're not changing, if you're not growing or improving, being consistent doesn't matter. It's got to result ultimately in growth, achievement, expansion, something. But just doing it to be consistent's not the goal. So I see Paul coming off. So Paul, what about that?
Yeah, I really like what Eric said there in terms of those check-ins, and the other thing too is if you fall off the wagon, so to speak, just to be gentle with yourself, and because a lot of times our all or nothing kicks in, and well, if I didn't, it's if you're on a intermittent fasting, let's say, and one morning you have breakfast, it's in the grand scheme of things, how much is that really gonna wreck what you're doing? So it's just to be gentle, because I know a lot of people, they really they take the whip, and a lot of self-flagellation if they falter or slip a little bit. But that's okay. You can start back again. You can start anytime. You can wipe the slate clean. So just to be kind of, because we've been hammering so much about this, but we can also be gentle with ourselves as well, and not get into the black and white all or nothing thinking.
Beautiful point, Paul. Love it. Rene, what about you?
Yeah, I love what Paul just said too, because that's very much what I talk about in my book. And it's a shame factor that we can take on, and really shame's a killer. It can really take us out and destroy our dreams so quickly. And I always say, if we fall down, get up. Even it doesn't matter how unglorious again it is, just continue to shake yourself off. And it doesn't negate everything you've done. If you just stuffed up that day, Easter today, I ate way more than I should have, and tomorrow I will start fresh. But it doesn't have to put me back so far that I go, well, it's all a waste of time now. What is even the point? I'm just going to throw it in. And, self-love, I used to roll my eyes at it, but self-love really is the key and the essence to this whole journey of becoming the person we were created to be. Because if we can't see it in ourselves and don't value it in ourselves enough, then that journey, we will never arrive where we were meant to arrive, and we'll never continue, whether it be consistency, diligence, commitment, that will all go by the wayside, because we have to find that meaning first and believe, is that word again, that we're worth it and that we can do it, and just be kind to ourselves along the way. Exactly what Paul said.
Love it. Thanks, Renee. And Mel, I saw you come off a mute too. What are your thoughts?
I've been so inspired by listening to everybody. So I think about, the forgiveness part of, yes, you want to be consistent and you have a goal and you say, I want to climb that mountain. But if you lose track, if again, it's not linear, right? And so the things that you measure yourself against, you will start to become clear. You will have a bigger mountain as you get halfway up that mountain, right? The first goal is just to start. And so, like we've all talked about, right? When we start to do something every single day and have people in our life to keep us accountable to that, to reflect on that journey,
Mhm.
your dreams get so much bigger. And so it provides so much clarity to you. And you do, like Greg, you look back 100 episodes and you say, how was this at the beginning? And we can all go back to that very first time that we had this idea.
Yes.
And so the encouraging part is for anybody that hasn't even started that journey yet and said, I'm going to start something new today, right? Measure it day by day, not I'm going to see it in 90 days. I have to be at this goal. Don't do that to yourself. Give yourself the freedom and the forgiveness of yourself to just say, it's okay. However I get there, whenever I get there, it's just, again, the belief in what you want to do with the gifts that you have.
Okay, we're done talking about consistency because now we're talking about the results of being consistent. And what I want to hear from you is what's going on in your life? What are you working on right now in your business? Tell me about the books you've written. Tell me about your next project. And last, tell us how somebody can get a hold of you if they want to continue the conversation or reach out.
Yeah, thank you very much, Greg. This has been wonderful. My whole campaign, when I started to believe in myself, was developing a system for people about everyday leaders. And so what I believe is that every single person has the capacity to be a leader in their own life. And so investing in yourself. And I started the Everyday Leaders group. And so Everyday Leaders Facebook group, but also my website is everydayleaders.com. My podcast is Everyday Leaders 50 and 50, where every year I interview 50 guests, and everyone on this panel, soon to be Paul, so everyone has been interviewed, and it's just a story, a journal about your life, how you have taken your everyday activities and invested in yourself and been consistent, right? And shared with the world what you're doing. And so I love this journey. I was in a book also with other women about mentoring moments and collaborating on ways to break through to success. And so there are so many things that I think about just in this group of accountability, right? We are this inner circle that pushes each other to grow bigger. And so what we did is we had this idea of an Airstream to become a mobile podcast studio. And so we've done that over the last year. And our hope is to be able to go to events, to bring that to people, to do leadership activities, to give visibility to leadership all across the country and maybe across the world. But I love this, again, the clarity, the consistency has created the clarity in people coming to me with ideas now about how they want to show up as a leader in their life. So that's who it is. So follow me, everydayleaders.com, and let's connect.
Melahni, I love it. Thanks for joining. David, what about you?
One of the things that that actually comes out of consistency is kind of an evolution. And to Eric's point, I mean, if we just do things over and over again, that's really not the objective. The objective is, what are we heading towards? And so one of the things that I've recognized is that I'm always heading towards health of teams, health of organizations, health, in not only in our physical bodies, but in our emotional and our relational journeys within organizations. And so because of that, I work with companies developing their culture, creating consistency. But out of that then came this realization that if we're going to future-proof our companies and our organizations, we've got to build our emerging leaders. And so it really was an evolution of that work that brought about this emerging leader inner circle. It's a virtual group coaching, masterminding event that happens twice a month, second Tuesday, fourth Tuesday of the month. And then once a year, we get together live in person here in Pittsburgh, and really be able to kind of culminate the year and our year of growth and really look ahead as to what is happening in the coming years. So that's been a kind of a cool evolution. The other thing that I'm working on right now is a program for developing culture within small and medium-sized companies where they can kind of do it themselves. And it's going to be an online program to be able to show them how to be consistent, how to create that consistency for themselves in developing their culture by making sure that they identify their behaviors that are going to lead to their success, and then creating the rituals around those behaviors. So and best place to catch me, LinkedIn. I'm really active on LinkedIn. I also do a lot of posting on Instagram, D McGlennen on Instagram.
Thanks, Dave. I've been honored to participate on occasion in the Emerging Leader Inner Circle. So it's a great group, and another great way to help leaders grow. Thanks for sharing that information with us. Eric, you are next. Man, what don't you have going on?
Well, and I say this, when I began, it was become consistent on creating. And I didn't know what creating would encompass. So, it started with the Facebooks, and then the blogs, and then the writing, then the books, and all of that. So for me, what I've learned on my own journey is first discover, grow, master, and then tell. And so everything I do goes through that process. What am I learning? What am I leaning into? What am I ready to really take to the next level and then tell people about, or share, or move outside of myself? And so that's what Success Life You is really all about. It's discovering and then mastering and then preparing to tell, or tell sometimes means impact the world with your message, your purpose, your vision, your goals. And so between discovering it and then telling it, there's the 12 principles of success.
How can we reach out and connect with you if somebody wants to further the discussion?
Aside from 8 a.m. weekday mornings on Facebook for the next 3 years at least, the Success Life You is really easy. Plus, you can pick up some free resources, and then you can sign up for the weekly coaching tip that goes out. So keep it simple. Success Life, the letter U, like in you, and university.com.
Thanks, Eric. Hey, Paul, talk to us about what you've got going on, what you've been doing. I know you're in the middle of a niche switch, adding a niche, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
What else, and how can we get a hold of you afterwards?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. For anyone, like my recovery stuff, that Longing for the Spirit, that's the book that came. And I also have a podcast called Buzzkill. And I also have the blog. I had Message in a Bottle as well. So those are the recovery kind of related stuff. I also have another podcast called Longing for the Spirit. But you can mostly find, I'm very active on social, and if direct is Paul at paulsilvacoaching.com, but mostly Facebook, Instagram, also LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube. But if you look anything Coach Paul Silva, you'll probably find me there. Like I said, I'm very active on social, and right now just working on, I started 2 groups in Facebook, one for recovery, Sober Haven, and the other one is Coach's Cove. And that's, Coach's Cove definitely has a lot of energy going on behind it. And I'm just in the process of creating all these learning units. And actually, speaking of niche is the next one that's coming up. And they've been getting a lot of great feedback. And eventually that's going to be the basis for starting a course for new coaches to tackle. Because there's a lot of overwhelm when you first start. It's like, what do I do first? And so that's going to help new coaches kind of tackle that.
You talk a lot about energy. You and I were trained in energy leadership. And so I love watching what you're doing and helping people shift their energy. So keep up the great work. And thanks again for joining me today. Rene, you are sitting next to Mr. Silva. and your list is like Eric. So why don't you tell us what you're on. This woman, let me tell you, she is on fire. If she's not guest spotting, she's getting written up in magazines and just traveling the world speaking to groups. You are just an amazing person who's shining brightly in the world. I love having you on today's panel and just knowing you. So tell us what you do have going on and how can somebody reach out to you if they want to?
Thank you for that. That was a bit awesome. Yeah, it's been a really exciting 2020. And then, of course, this virus thing happened. And I was basically just about to take to the stage and do a much bigger speaking circuit here throughout Queensland, down in Sydney. And then that was going to take me overseas. So still happening. It's just slowed down a little bit. But yeah, I've just been featured in YMag magazine, which is Australia's leading female empowerment magazine here in Australia, named as one of the 8 change makers for 2020. So that was an absolute honor. That was a bit mind blowing. Thank you. And then of course the book's still going really, really strong. So that's very exciting. And that's opening more speaking opportunities as well. Still coaching. I'm still coaching high performing women. And that's my 90-day Battle Queen program. So that's going strong and really, really well and very exciting there, having major breakthroughs with women, particularly around the childhood trauma. So that's really exciting. And I'm very, very active on Facebook. I have a women's empowerment group, which Melahni's a part of. So I love having her in there. And also on LinkedIn. So I'm always there. So you can definitely contact me that way.
Oh, thank you. Hey, tell us the name of your book, by the way.
Battle Scars Are Beautiful, From Victim to Victory.
Love it. And that's available on Amazon.
Yep, on all major online bookstores. Yep.
Of course, last but not least, steel toes required. Dennis, talk to us about what you're working on and how can people reach out to you as well and get connected?
Well, in this season, it's really funny. I've had so many things going on. I'm actually working through a list right now of everything I'm doing to get laser focused on what's next. And what's been emerging so far for me is I'm seeing in this season a lot of people reaching out to me for just building their faith. Just that they're in a season where they're needing encouragement and building their faith. So I've got a group that meets on Sunday mornings that just want to meet for an hour. I do that on Zoom. If you would like more information on that to join, we've got people from all over. Melahni's been in it, and you can reach me on Facebook. Now you got to put Dennis LaRue Jr. If you don't do Dennis LaRue Jr., you will get an NHL hockey referee with Dennis LaRue. So do Dennis LaRue Jr. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I do a lot of videos. I do a lot of live videos on Facebook. LaRue on the street when I'm out walking. I get great ideas and I just stop in the moment and share some of those ideas with you and what's going on real raw in the moment. I'm working on doing more writing. That has really been coming up a lot in my reflective time to do more writing. There are some blogs on my website at dennislarue.org, but I sense a shift. I'm in a shift also, a niche shift, not just leadership, but also some of my writing style, because my faith has really been coming out a lot more. I've been repressing it, and I feel it coming out more in the things that I'm dealing with. And I'm finding also that a lot of leaders are wanting to have those discussions. And so I love having those discussions and also thinking outside the box. I was a square peg in a round hole in the Air Force in my job as a consultant, because I spent more time away from the statistical models and spent more time on the human model and the organization and the leader and thinking outside from that realm. So I do a lot of that as well. So those are kind of things that I've been doing.
I love it. Thanks you guys for sharing what you're working on, what you have going on. All of you are awesome. I am actually heads down working on a new audio program of 10 audio series about each is a lesson about one thing that you can work on. You put all these 10 together and you have this recipe of working on how to build yourself as a leader, how to grow yourself as a leader, because I wanted to build this program as a way for people to start with themselves first, because as we all know, we have to be able to lead ourselves before we can lead others. So I'm starting there. So it's such a fun project because I'm in my creative zone, and I'm going through the scripts right now, and I've got intros and outros going on. It's going to be really cool audio series. So I'm excited. And coming in May, I think some of you might be on this panel too, but I'm a panel member on the Global Self-Leadership Summit that will be coming out on LinkedIn. So that was exciting. I've been doing some spots there. And like a lot of you who are speakers, I've had some opportunities that were coming up in May that have now been canceled. So there's always a reason for everything. You know, what I think I want to do to wrap this special edition of the Weekly Roar is I want to share this thing that I came across about a year ago, and it's called The Lion Chaser's Manifesto, and it came from a book written by a guy named Mark Batterson, and the book's called Chase the Lion. I mean, how appropriate, right? Like, I love this book. And so, hold on, let me get this thing here and open it up, because listen to this, you guys. You're gonna love this. The Lion Chaser's Manifesto says this: quit living as if the purpose of life is to arrive safely at death. Run to the roar. Set God-sized goals. Pursue God-given passions. Go after a dream that's destined to fail without divine intervention. Stop pointing out problems. Become part of the solution. Stop repeating the past and start creating the future. Face your fears. Fight for your dreams. Grab opportunity by the mane and don't let it go. Live like today is the first day and last day of your life. Burn sinful bridges. Blaze new trails. Live for the applause of nail-scarred hands. Don't let what's wrong with you keep you from worshiping what's right with God. Dare to fail. Dare to be different. Quit holding out. Quit holding on. Quit running away. Chase the lion. Now, I'm going to be back here in the Lion's Den next week to continue my latest leadership series, How to Raise a Leader. I'm going to be speaking about something that good leaders do daily for their potential leaders. Now, if you want to know what that is, join me for the Weekly Roar on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You guys, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Thank you for adding value to our listeners and adding value to me. Okay, everybody, until we meet again next week, remember, be powerful, but stay poised, just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
$100! Oh my gosh, Greg, congratulations on 100 episodes. Your persistence and consistency is just so amazing, and you're such a role model, and the value that you add to others is just priceless. So congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Happy 100th episode.
Hey Greg, Amy Burkett here from outside Charlotte, North Carolina, sending you a huge congratulations on your 100th episode of your Weekly Roar. I just want to congratulate you on your consistency, your leadership, and that servant's heart that just shines so brightly from you.
Hello, it's Darlene here from Canada. I'd like to just shout out a huge congratulations to you, Greg. there's been this great roar coming from Italy. And Greg, I believe that the sound of your roar is being heard right now in the midst of shaking, turmoil, and uncertainty, and that you're stepping into a new time, and that the volume of your roar, I believe, is going to get stronger and even more impacting.
Hey, Greg Storch, this is Chris Brown. Just wanted to congratulate you, brother, on your 100th upload of the weekly Roar, the Lion's Den. I just wanted to say congratulations, man. And most importantly, I wanted to congratulate you on your consistency of your uploading, of you making your videos, because I know how life can happen. I know how other events can happen, but choosing to stay consistent in what you're doing and what you believe in matters the most. I just wanted to say congratulations, brother, and keep doing your thing. Love you.
Hey Greg, congratulations, 100 episodes of the weekly Roar. We are so excited for you. You have been an inspiration to all of us. I cannot wait to hear the next 100 episodes. You have been consistently in our ears for the last 2 years, and I just want to say a huge congratulations to you for achieving such a monumental milestone. 100 episodes, Greg. Way to go. We love you. We are cheering you on and learning from you every day.
Greg, congratulations on your 100th episode of the weekly Roar. That was embarrassing, I know. I love you, dear friend. I am so excited each and every time a new episode comes out. You offer us so much value, and I am looking forward to the next 100. Big Kimberly kudos and much love to you. Take care.
Hey Greg, congratulations on your 100th episode of the weekly Roar within the Lion's Den. It's hard to believe, but it's been over 20 years ago that we first met one another at Med Battalion, and then our crazy deployment to Iraq. Thank you again for everything that you've done and will continue to do. I'm looking forward to your 200th episode. Ciao.
Greg, I want to congratulate you on your 100th episode of the weekly Roar. Big blessings, God bless you, and hope for 400 episodes. Big hug.
Hi Greg, it's Tamika. Congratulations on your 100th episode. So 100 episodes later, I'm here and I still call you a great mentor, a great coach, and a great leader. Congratulations again, and looking forward to the next step in this journey.
Good morning, Greg. How are you? So first off, I want to congratulate you on your 100th episode of Weekly Roar. Man, what an accomplishment you've had already so far in the short journey that you've been on. And man, I look forward to the next 100 episodes and being on the journey with you in the future. So take care, and look forward to seeing you in the calls. Bye.
Hi, Greg. Huge congrats on your 100th episode of the weekly Roar. Yay! I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for inspiring me and so many others around the world. I love you. I miss you. And you help me be better each and every single day.
Hello, Greg. Do you know that my math friends say there's a 1% possibility that something can be completed 100 straight times? So I want to say congratulations to your persistence in bringing that to us. You are a true leader. Keep it going. I challenge you to do another 100. Take care, my friend. Congratulations. God bless.
Hi, Greg. I just want to take a few seconds to congratulate you on reaching your 100th episode. This is an amazing milestone that you can add to your success story. I want to say that all of your tips, tools, lessons, guest speakers that you've had on your shows have truly impacted my leadership journey. I want to thank you for being an amazing servant leader, and I'm wishing you continued success.
Hey Greg, congratulations on your 100th episode on the Weekly Roar. I remember when it was your first episode and when this was just an idea. And so to see the change and see the growth has been awesome to see. So thank you, congratulations, and keep up the great work.
Roar. That was embarrassing, I know.
Love you, Betty.
roar. Yay!
Roar!
So thank you, Greg, for stepping out there with 100 roars.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.